So this is Bible study with K and B. Of course, those are my initials. It also stands for Keep Me Blessed, where I've created a community for people to gather, grow in their faith, and serve each other. My goal is to get people closest to God and their true purpose in life. I believe that everyone is special, and God gave everyone gifts to do His will on earth. So, of course, every Monday and Friday, we meet with the same exact link at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. So you'll see a lot of butterflies, pretty much that represents transformation, rebirth, and personal growth due to its metamorphosis from a caterpillar. Its life cycle reflects the process of change, growth, and new beginnings, hinting at the thought of leaving behind the old and embracing the future. Furthermore, a butterfly also represents freedom, lightness, joy, and an appreciation of grace and beauty. So each call we will say our daily affirmations. So you can screenshot them, say them to yourself, whatever, write them down, whatever. But I am going to read them. It says, I move with softness, intention, and love. I am guided by God's divine wisdom, not the noise of the world. My steps are ordered, my mind is clear, and my spirit is at peace. I am a child of God, chosen and deeply loved. I am an heir to His promises, and all that is meant for me finds me with ease. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, crafted with purpose and intention. I walk in unwavering faith even when I cannot see the full path. I trust that everything is working for my good. God fights on my behalf, and I am always protected. I am a survivor. I beat the odds. Every challenge I face strengthens and elevates me. I rise with resilience, courage, and confidence. I live a life of abundance, prosperity, and overflow. My resources are limitless because I serve a God who created everything. I lack nothing. Everything I need is already aligned for me. I walk boldly in my purpose, anchored in faith and guided by truth. My life reflects God's goodness, and I am grateful for all that is and all that is coming. All right, so again, we are talking about managing God's money. I'm kind of doing a breakdown of the book by Randy Alcorn. So this is what we talked about on Monday. So for today, we are going to continue with the parables of the minas. I hope it's minas. I don't know if it's minas or minus. Okay, so this is Luke 19:11 through 27. While they were listening to this, he went on to tell them a parable, because he was near Jerusalem and the people thought the kingdom of God was going to appear at once. He said, a man of noble birth went to a distant country to have himself appointed king and then to return. So he called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. Put this money to work, he said, until I come back. But his subjects hated him and sent the delegation after him to say, we don't want this man to be our king. He was made king, however, and returned home. Then he sent for the servants to whom he had given the money in order to find out what they had gained with it. The first one came out and said, Sir, your mina has earned 10 more. Well done, my servant, his master replied, because you have been trustworthy in a very small matter. Take charge of 10 cities. The second came and said, Sir, your mina has earned 5 more. His master answered, You take charge of 5 cities. Then another servant came and said, Here is your mina. I have kept it laid away in a piece of cloth. I was afraid of you because you are a hard man. You take out what you did not put and reap what you did not sow. The master replied, I would judge you by your own words, you wicked servant. You knew, did you, that I am a hard man, taking out what I did not put in and reaping what I did not sow. Why then didn't you put my money on deposit, so when I came back, I could have collected it with interest? Then he said to those standing by, Take this mina away from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas. Sir, they said, he already has 10, he replied. He already has 10. He replied, I tell you that to everyone who has, more will be given, but for the one who has nothing, even that will be taken away. But those enemies of mine who did not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. All right, so I know some people are a little lost because they weren't here on Monday, but we talked about the parable of the bags of gold. So these two are very similar. These two stories are very similar, as you can see if you were here on Monday. So minas or minas, I think it's minas, but it's another form of currency pretty much. So it's like gold, it's like money, or wages, pretty much what they were being paid um, back then. So um, pretty much the master, he gave the servants a certain amount of money. In this case, he gave them all the same amount, and he wanted them to pretty much go invest or really get a return on what they gave him. So we see that some servants did that, and then the other servant did not do that, pretty much. And when Jesus spoke, he pretty much spoke in parables. So he talked in riddles or stories, pretty much to get you to understand a bigger picture, to kind of simplify it, or to see if you are really, in tune or paying attention. So we can say that the king in the story kind of represents God, and God, he gives us certain things or certain gifts or resources or whatever, and he wants us to make a return on that investment. He wants us to use that investment to do more, pretty much. So I do have a few questions here, discussion questions. It's not a lot of us here today, so participation is greatly appreciated. If you want to answer one, two, three, a few, whatever stood out to you. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can always use the raise your hand tool, and then you will have the floor. Or if you don't feel like or feel comfortable with speaking verbally, you can always put it in the chat as well. But I'm just going to read the questions, and then, like I said, you guys can have the floor. So, number one, the master gives each of, that shouldn't say 10, it should say, it was 3, right? But the master gives each of his servants exactly 1 mina. In the parable of the talents, the master gives varying amounts. So in the parable of the talents, he gave one servant 5, another servant 2, and then one servant 1, each according to his own ability. So what is the significance of this? What is the significance of the difference of the amount given to the servants between the two stories? Number 2, in the parable of the minas, the servant who takes 10 minas gets authority over 10 cities, while the other one who takes 5 gets authority, who makes 5, I'm sorry, not takes, who makes 5 gets authority over 5 cities. How does this differ from the parable of the talents, where both successful servants receive identical rewards? Number 3, in both stories, the master takes the inactive servant's money and gives it to the one who was most productive. Why does God take away opportunities from those who do not use them? What does this mean practically to lose a stewardship? That's a good question. Number 4, when called out, the unproductive servant seemed to shift the blame to his master. How does this attitude mirror the way people might act when they fail to take responsibility for their spiritual growth? That's also a good one. Number 5, both masters return to hold their servants accountable. If Jesus were to view your life today like the master did, how would you hope he would summarize your stewardship? All right, I've been talking for a while. Does anybody else want to start and chime in on the questions so we can discuss?
Okay, so the last question that you asked, you said, how would Jesus describe your stewardship? I say that for me, he'll say that you did a little bit of what I wanted you to do, but not all of what I wanted you to do. So since you wanted to do things the way that you wanted to do them, this is why things is working out not so much in your favor. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
For me.
And definitely, that makes sense. I definitely get that. Go ahead, Mom.
So I'll give a brief summary of what I think of each question. So So in the first story, they said he gave um, he gave them different amounts because of their abilities. So I'm thinking maybe in this story, he started them all out with the same amount because he was not sure of their management skills or their stewardship skills, and he wanted to see, um, I guess, basically who was the best at stewarding or who should steward the most. So maybe all of the servants in the second story was on even playing fields as far as um, how much he knew about their stewardship. And then once they proved to him how well they steward money, then the reward was given. And then in number two, I don't really know about number two. Number two, the two servants, they received different amounts and got the same reward. But this one, maybe so much because they were all on, like I said, they started off on equal playing fields. So this kind of showed that some may be better at management than the others. So the ones that was best at management got the most cities to govern. That's what I would say about number two. Um, now number three is probably, like you said, that is a good one. So number three more so I think relates to everyday life. I also think it's self-explanatory though. So God gives us these opportunities to build his kingdom. We always hear that, you know, whatever happens, God's plan will succeed. God is always in control. So if that opportunity is not taken by the person that he gives it to, he's not just going to let his plan fall by the wayside. Of course, he's going to give it to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think it means to lose stewardship. You get that opportunity like the two masters gave his servants. You get that opportunity, and if you don't take advantage of that opportunity, God will definitely give that opportunity to somebody else. If you, and kind of like what Denise was saying, once you get an opportunity to steward something, whether it be money, resources, your time, that's another thing that people don't, I think sometimes, I'm going to speak for myself, that I don't realize that is important when it comes to stewardship. Time. When God gives you time to do something, if you don't properly steward your time, you lose time. Mm-hmm. Time doesn't stop for anyone. Time keeps moving. So I think that, yeah, I mean, he's not going to sit around and let anybody be wasteful. So when you don't properly steward your time, your resources, your money, even the people in your life, then you lose them. And then that's his plan ultimately continues. And that's that blessing or those opportunities are given to somebody else. How does the yeah, I'm gonna stop right there. I need to think a little bit more on 4 and 5.
Okay. All right. Okay, I wanted to talk about numbers 1 and 2 a bit because this kind of made me think about like even um, today in our lives because I was talking to someone and y'all know I'm an activist and it kind of like upsetted me a little bit in the moment, but thinking back on it, like I kind of get where they were coming from, but still I don't know because pretty much the conversation was about like quote unquote black people and how um you know a lot of black people are, they were saying they were like lazy and we just, well, black people just have to work harder and do more and this and that, but it kind of just like upset me because like saying like it was really the term lazy that kind of threw me off because it's like when everybody knows that if the system is already like put against you, and it's like you have to work 10 times harder to do something that somebody else can get easier. It was just like it was no, I guess, sympathy. I guess I don't know, but it just really rubbed me the wrong way because like we already know that the system is against the colored folks. So it's like saying that, oh, you're being lazy or are you doing this? It's just like, your starting point, and I put that in the question, like the starting point isn't equal. It's not a fair race, pretty much. But then it made me think like, okay, well, there are still some black people that aren't, poor, or they aren't living a certain life, or they aren't, dealing with certain struggles. So, I mean, I guess it is possible for you to, of course, overcome the odds. But it's just like the fact that you have to do as much is just like, I guess it's unfair. But then it made me think about like even my life or other people's lives. Like everybody goes through things, so nobody starts at the exact same starting point, and that's kind of where it was with the parable of the talents, because they all got um, different bags of talents or different amounts. Like we had one had five, one had two, and one had one. And he each wanted them to both go and get a return on their investment. So it's like each of us, we start at different starting points in our lives, but we are still expected to go out and pretty much do what we have, play our cards right. So it just made me think of that, and it was like, dang, that like is really unfair. And me and my mom were actually talking yesterday, and she said something that just really stuck with me. Like when I woke up, that was on my brain. She said, because I was like, I didn't ask for all of this. Like I don't like when you feel like you're called or when you're chosen. It's like a lot comes with that. So it's like nobody. Well, I feel like the people who are really called to do great things, like a lot of people don't even really want that responsibility because it is a lot. And I was telling her like I really didn't ask for all of this. And she was like, well, yeah, like I feel like as humans we are very self-centered, because she was saying that God placed everyone here for a specific purpose. So it's like for you to say I don't want to do this, or like it's really like my say how you said it. Like it's not pretty much up to us. Like God has a purpose for each of us. So I don't know. She'll say it better, pretty much. But that was just really interesting to me how like we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different starting points, but we are all dealt. We're all meant to pretty much do different things with it.
You pretty much got it right. I was just saying that if something is made for a specific purpose and it was specifically made for just that, for you to say, well, I don't want to do that, I want to do something else, it's never going to work out because that's not what you were made for. So that's just like if, I don't know, a bird decided to be a fish, he would drown. If a fish decided he wanted to fly, he would suffocate. So it's like you can't just say, especially to your creator, you can't just say, well, even though this is why I'm here, or even to your boss, even though this is why I'm here, this is what you hired me for, I don't want to do this, I want to do something else. It don't work like that.
All right. Yeah, she said it good. But even though, like, yeah, like she said, even if they decide to do something different, we do have free will. And like Denise was saying, like, even when you try to do your own thing, it just never works out because that wasn't what God intended for you. And God's plans are always better than ours. We just don't quite understand them. That's why you got to seek Him, seek His word, and everything will end up coming full circle. But good morning, Kayla. So we were talking about, I don't know if you can see the screen, the parable of the 10 minas. It's pretty much about a servant. I mean, a a king who gave servants different amount of money, and he wanted them to pretty much give him a return on his investment. Jesus spoke in parables pretty much to kind of get you to see a different perspective or understand the story. So this can kind of be seen as the king being God, and then his servants being each and every one of us, him giving us different gifts, resources, money, talents, whatever the case may be, to kind of advance his kingdom. So that's what we are talking about. Right now, we are on the discussion questions. So I don't know if you want to briefly take a look at those, but we are discussing. And then for number two, I also wanted to say, um, when it came to the different like starting points, the different things of in people's lives, we see that for this story, the one who made 10 minus back, he got authority over 10 cities, and then the one who made 5 got authority over 5 cities. But in the other story, we see that they were given different amounts, but they all received the same reward. So that kind of made me think of like how even like going back to what I was saying, like tying it into day to day life, like when someone will go out and do the same thing, well, not the same thing you did. They will go out and put in less work than you, but get the same thing in return or even more. And that's also what we see, even when I was talking about the whole race thing. So it's like it's just crazy to think like that. That whole thing was just crazy to think about. I think it was really, like I said, the word lazy that just kind of threw me off, because it was like we can do one thing and then get less than what we deserve, but then someone else of like a different race or anything like that, they can do the same exact thing or less than, and then get more. So that kind of made me think about that too when it came to the parables. I don't know, that just came to my mind. Go ahead, Mom.
So in that story, the one who, okay, so the first two that actually made the money, it was 10 and 5. So he gave them
He gave them,
5, 2, and 1.
yeah.
So the person he gave 5 made what?
Let me go back to see. He gave 5, then the other one gave 2, but they all both received the same reward.
No, I'm saying, like, okay, so say for example, if one got 5 and one got 2,
Mm-hmm.
what did they both make the same percent? Did the one that got 5 increase his by 20%,
5.
and then one that, huh? The one
Yes,
that got 5.
the one that got 5 gained 5. The one that got 2 gained 2.
Right. So did they receive? My question is, did they receive the same reward because did they both make 20% on what they were given? Did they both
Yeah,
have the same amount of success?
that's
Just
true.
because they received two different amounts doesn't mean that they didn't have the same amount of success.
Yeah,
Is that why they got the same reward?
probably. Cause yeah, we was talking about effort too.
Yeah.
Like he just, yeah, that's true.
So say for example, if your goal is to increase it by 10%, if they both increased it by 10%, even though they got
Yeah,
different amounts, they still got the same amount of profits for what they received.
that's true.
I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box. I'm just thinking maybe that's why they received the same reward, not necessarily because
Yeah, I
even
think.
though one made, because they were on two different playing fields. But if they still increased by the same amount, they got the same reward because they got the same profit,
Yeah,
possibly.
cause we were also talking about on Monday too the effort behind it, the intent behind it as well, and that's another reason why they probably got the same gift or reward, was because the intent was there. So
Yeah, and also because maybe the assignment was to simply increase. Maybe there was not a dollar amount on that. Maybe the master's goal was just to make a profit. So
mm-hmm.
the goal was accomplished.
Yeah,
so they got the same reward. I don't know. I was just trying to.
If that is true. Does anybody else want to chime in and add, answer one of the questions? Even if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything? All right. Well, for number four, I think I wanted to discuss. So it says, when called out, the unproductive servant seems to shift the blame to his master. How does this attitude mirror the way people might act when they fail to take responsibility for their spiritual growth? So I think this is also a good question because we've talked about this previously before, but when things, and Denise actually just touched on it too, like when things don't go our way, we kind of turn to God and put the blame on Him, or, or try to be angry or upset at Him when, like we were saying before, that's not what you were supposed to be doing anyway. So you did your own thing, and then you turned around and got upset because your way didn't work out when that's not, you know, that wasn't pretty much in the plans. Go ahead, Scott, and then you can go, Mom.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I just really felt this question personally because I am my own spiritual journey, and I feel like I'm at the point where, excuse me, I really can't blame my mom or I can't blame anyone else around me for how it's going because I'm at the point where I have to take control, and I have to. Um, for it to be how I wanted to look, I have to do the work myself. And for me to try to sit and blame somebody else around me, that would be like I feel like I'll be giving my power away to change or power away for growth. Because we all have the power at the end of the day to do and become what we think we should become or feel like we are able to become. So if I was to blame somebody else, I'd be giving that power away. And that just don't sit right with me. I have the power to be whatever I want to be. So yeah, that's how I feel about that one.
That was really good. Okay, but I have a question for you. So, with that being said, what do you think about what I said before about the conversation that I had with somebody else when they were saying, like, do you feel like circumstances, whether that's like environment, race, gender, like, do you think that that plays a role? And if it does, I know you were saying, like, it's up to you to get yourself out of certain situations. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you just take it to the chin? Like it does those things not matter? Like, what do you think?
No, I kind of get both sides of what you were saying about the conversation because we were talking about this in my sociology course. Um, how sometimes, environmental factors obviously play a role in the outcome of your life. But for me, like you said, I'm a very sympathetic person. So like I'm always understanding of everybody's situation. And I don't ever think just individually or as a community for Black people that we are going to be at fault for if our lives turn negative or if we fail to overcome certain barriers in the system. Because, like you said, the system has always been set up against us. But if somebody is strong enough and powerful enough to overcome those barriers, then okay, that's obviously great for them. But unfortunately, everybody just isn't strong enough mentally or is not ready mentally to put in the work to overcome those barriers.
Yeah, and that's also where I feel like spiritual growth kind of plays a part because, like, I feel like a lot of things are hard, but honestly, like if you could get your mental together, like you can really overcome a lot. Like a lot of stuff really be mental, and me and my mom talk about this stuff all the time. Like discipline and consistency is really the key. Like if they said it in the Bible, like if you seek, you will find it. Like if you are persistent enough to like, okay, I'm going to change my bad habits. Okay, I'm going to turn my health around. Okay, I'm going to fix my financial situation. If you are committed to doing those things, even when times get tough, just thugging it out, getting through it, being consistent, I feel like you're going to be able to, get to where you want to be eventually. So it is, I feel like mental does play a part in it. And a lot of people are not mentally strong enough or even spiritually strong enough to withstand the tough times because there are going to be tough times in life. Go ahead, Mom.
So I have two, like Scott said, I understand both parts. As far as, society wise, the way you, the situation that you was born into, pretty much. Um, yeah, we know that the world is unfair, life is unfair, and you can't just sit around and pout about it. So, in my, for me, that's just not something to dwell on. Like, oh, well, I entered this situation at an unfair advantage. Okay, but I'm here and I'm in it. So that my focus never stays on that. And then also, as far as like, parenting is concerned, you have to then just keep going backwards. It's like, okay, well, with my parents, I ended up in this situation because of my parents. But how did my parents end up in that situation? What did they go through? What kind of parenting did they receive? And then you have to go back to their parents. So instead of just going backwards, you might as well look forward and deal with the situation before you. I mean, looking backwards can help you understand, um, their situation and how you got into your situation, but ultimately you still have to look forward and move forward. So that's not necessarily something that I ever dwelled on or held on to or was angry about. The second thing that I wanted to say was, and I think we talked about this before as well, anytime something goes wrong, I don't care whose fault it actually was. I don't care who did what to me. I never look at it as that person's fault, even when somebody wronged me. I always bring it back to myself because I understand that I always have a choice. So it was like, okay, well, this person might have wronged me, but why did I even end up dealing with this person? Did I miss some red flags? Like, what part did I play in it? So it always comes back to me. Like, how did I allow this person to do this to me? How did I allow this to happen? Or what choices am I going to make moving forward? In my life, to me, nothing is ever somebody else's fault. It's kind of like, okay, this happened to you. How are you going to handle this situation? What choice are you going to make? How are you going to move forward? Or how did you even get in this situation? Why are you even dealing with this person? Why did you even enter into these circumstances? So I'm saying all that to say, like, even I definitely don't blame God because, like you said, we do have free will and we live in a broken world where people use their free will to do messed up things. Um, but a lot of times I don't even tend to dwell on that person that did the wrong either. Like I always bring the focus back to myself and self improvement.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, I do that. Like, I feel like I'm a very self aware person. Like, I feel like I self reflect a lot. And also, like we were talking about before, I know that my understanding isn't God's understanding. So, like, I know that everything happens for a reason, pretty much. So, and we say this all the time, like when things happen or we think they're going wrong or whatever, we just like, okay, everything happens for a reason. There's a reason why this happened. So for me, I know that in the back of my head, and that's another reason why I'm able to just like keep going and just like in the midst of the storms, just keep focused because I just know that everything happens for a reason, and then on the other side of this is you know is something good because even like in the game of Temple Run, like you got to go through the hard. You can't advance without hard times because without the hard times or circumstances, you would not know that you're prepared for more pretty much. So that's how I always look at things. Like I know that I can, if I get through this, like it's something better waiting for me pretty much. But at the same time, because at first I'm like, I was kind of looking down on the servant for getting mad at the master because we can kind of see like people get mad at God. But then I kind of like when I think I'm like low key, sometimes I be doing that because I literally just did that yesterday when we were talking. I was having a pity party and I'm like, well, why do I have to go through this or why do I have to do that pretty much? And it's just like I don't know. I forgot what I was gonna say. My brain just went blank. I forgot what you were saying, Ma. That made me think about this. Taking blank, but sometimes I don't know. I just feel like okay with the whole being born into certain things situation. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. Sometimes I do be upset at the circumstances because it was like I was born in this situation, or like we were saying, even when it comes to like families, like I wasn't born, like of course I want to be wealthy. I want my kids to be wealthy, but I wasn't born in a wealthy family, so it's like that kind of made me feel away a little bit because it's like, dang. But then it just goes back to everybody not being mentally strong enough to get themselves out of certain environments or certain circumstances. And then you have kids in that predicament, and now your kids are kind of growing up like that. So it's up to your kids to kind of break that break that cycle if they choose to. And it's the whole thing. And that's why it's going to be time to wrap up. But on one of these lessons, we are going to be talking about money management in the household and the families. We briefly talked about it like a few months ago, but I still feel like it is a very important topic because that's just adding onto the environment to struggles that we were talking about. Like when you are born into these certain circumstances or these certain situations and environments, it's just like you don't want to be bitter about it, but it's just it still makes me feel away sometimes because like now again, like we were saying, I have to work 10 times harder to get myself out of a situation that I was born into. I get what I'm saying? So yeah, I feel that way sometimes when it comes to God. It's like I'm here in this situation and didn't ask to be, and then sometimes also when it comes to the family aspect, because again, I'm here in this situation but I didn't ask to be. But we still have to play our cards right and trust God in the process. So go ahead, Mom.
Yeah, so real quick, so maybe certain people are born into harder situations because, and I just said this to you the other day, because of what they need to accomplish for God, their purpose is so great. Like, how do you prepare yourself mentally, spiritually, physically for a task so great if the test isn't great?
Right.
So sometimes, like, if you expect to accomplish amazing things, like how are you ever going to be prepared for that amazing thing if the test is not hard? If you're not tested, when you get to that point, you're not going to be ready. So maybe that's a different perspective to look at it. Maybe people are born into difficult situations because that expectation or that purpose that God has on that person's life is so great, and they were meant or put here to accomplish so much that they need to be able to have a certain amount of strength. And in order to have a certain amount of strength, you have to pass a difficult test. And some people never pass it. Some people never step up to the challenge, but that doesn't mean that that wasn't the intent or
Right.
the purpose on their life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And like we were saying before, anything that comes easy or fast isn't going to last because when those hard times come, because they are going to come, because that's life, you're not going to be able to withstand the storm. So you have to get those reps in now, go through the hard things now so that when tough things come, you'll be able to handle it. You'll be well equipped. So, yeah, that is true. That is true. That's what I keep telling myself. All right. So, this is the last slide. The book of Proverbs says, lazy people want much but get little, but those who work hard will prosper. Work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. That's Proverbs 13, verse 4 and 14:23. God will reward his children for working hard at any honest job, earning money, using it wisely, and sharing it generously. Our goal is to please him, for we must all stand before Christ to be judged. We will receive whatever we deserve for the good or evil we have done in this earthly body. That's 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 9 through 10. The honored woman of Proverbs 33 goes to inspect a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. And then in Luke 16, we see whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own. Mm. So just a couple of verses to think about.